Fact Check. Night 2 of GOP Convention. Cleveland. The theme of the second night of the Republican Convention was Make America Work Again, but the false and misleading claims we flagged touched on topics beyond the economy and jobs. Since Donald Trump Jr. distorted Clinton's gun control proposal, claiming, as his father did, that she wants to take away Americans' guns. Clinton's gun control proposal doesn't call for taking away guns. Censored speakers claimed that Clinton paid women less than men in her Senate office. That's true if one includes only workers who worked for Clinton full-time for a full year, but it's not accurate if including workers who worked part of the year or took unpaid leaves of absences. Since Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson and former Attorney General Michael B. Mukasey both mentioned Clinton's "what difference does it make" quote on Benghazi, but left out the context of that remark. Clinton didn't say that the loss of life in Benghazi didn't make a difference. Sense. Dan Sullivan of Alaska and Shirley Moore Capito of West Virginia took Clinton's words on coal mining jobs out of context. Capito said Clinton promised to devastate communities and families across coal country, but Clinton said she wants to bring renewable energy jobs to coal country to replace lost coal jobs. Since Capito used a one-sided report and back-of-the-envelope calculation to claim that the burden of government regulations in this country amounts to $15,000 a household, and she exaggerated the number of coal mining jobs that have been lost since 2011, putting the figure at 60,000 when it's 36,700. Since Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wrongly said that Clinton was for the Keystone XL pipeline before she was against it. She did not take a position until she opposed the pipeline in 2015. Since Capito also said the Obama economic agenda has led to the lowest workforce participation in decades, but the rate began its decline in the late 1990s and is due mainly to baby boomers retiring and other demographic factors. The unemployment rate, meanwhile, is below the historical norm. Since Senator Jeff Sessions claimed that respect for America has fallen, but the U.S. is viewed more favorably in many countries now than it was before President Obama took office. Since Donald Trump Jr. also wrongly said that his father funded his entire primary run out of his own pocket. Trump provided about 73% of the funding, but not all of it. Donald Trump Jr. followed in his father's footsteps in distorting the facts on Clinton's gun control proposals. He claimed that Clinton would take away Americans' guns, but she doesn't propose a ban on all guns or taking away guns. Trump's language was similar to that of his father, who has claimed that Clinton wants to take your guns away and she wants to abolish the Second Amendment. As we've written before, her gun control proposal calls for restrictions, such as a ban on semi-automatic assault weapons and expanded background checks, but she doesn't propose taking away guns. Her gun violence prevention proposal, which is on her campaign website, calls for expanding background checks to some private sales online and at gun shows, changing the federal law that allows gun buyers to purchase a gun if a background check remains incomplete after 3 days, and reinstating a ban on certain semi-automatic assault weapons that expired in 2004. That law didn't ban any guns in circulation before it took effect. As for abolishing the Second Amendment, that claim is likely based on Clinton's comment in a 2015 speech that the Supreme Court is wrong on the Second Amendment, and I am going to make that case every chance I get. But that comment was about a specific case, the 2008 Supreme Court ruling that found the handgun ban in Washington, D.C. unconstitutional. The conservative Washington Free Beacon wrote that Clinton appeared to be criticizing that ruling, and her campaign confirmed to us that she was referring to that case. Campaign spokesman Josh Schwerin said Clinton believes Heller was wrongly decided in that cities and states should have the power to craft common-sense laws to keep their residents safe. In her own words, in April, Clinton talked about protecting the gun rights of lawful gun owners. There is a Second Amendment. There are constitutional rights. We aren't interested in taking away guns of lawful, responsible gun owners. Two featured speakers at the convention claimed that Clinton paid women less than men in her Senate office. That's true if one includes only workers who worked for Clinton full-time for a full year, but it's not accurate if one also includes workers who only worked part of the year, or who took brief unpaid leaves of absences. Annual salary data provided to us by the Clinton campaign show median salaries for men and women in Clinton's office were virtually identical if one included employees who only worked part of the year. The issue of pay disparity in Clinton's Senate office was first raised at the convention by Sharon Day, co-chair of the Republican National Committee. Later in the night, Kimberlyn Brown, an actress best known for her roles on two soap operas, said that in then-Senator Clinton's office vertical line men have been paid better than women. We took an in-depth look at this issue back in April 2015 when RNC Chairman Reince Priebus made a similar claim. Those attacking Clinton base their claims of gender pay disparity on a report by the Washington Free Beacon of publicly available expense reports submitted biannually to the Secretary of the Senate. Looking at median salaries among full-time, year-round employees, the Free Beacon concluded that women working in Clinton's Senate office were paid 72 cents for each dollar paid to men. The Clinton campaign provided fact-check. Org a list of the names, titles and annual salaries of every full-time person employed in Clinton's Senate office between 2002 and 2008. Those data show the median salary for men and women to be the same at $40,000. The data also showed Clinton hired roughly twice as many women as men. The Clinton list of salaries included full-time workers who may have worked only part of the year, or who took brief unpaid leaves of absence. Experts told us that Clinton's methodology was reasonable, because Senate staffers often toggled between Senate and campaign work. But experts also told us the Free Beacon methodology was legitimate, too. There are many different ways to measure these things and you will get slightly different answers. Eileen Patton, the research analyst at the Pew Research Center, told us last year. It's not that either data set is flawed. They just show different things. Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson led his speech with an oft-used quote from Hillary Clinton on the September 11, 2012, Benghazi attacks, but he left out the full context. Former Attorney General Michael B. Mukasey was more egregious in misrepresenting Clinton's quote, saying, "So I guess about her emails we're soon gonna hear the same infamous question that we heard about the death of 4 Americans in Benghazi. What difference at this point does it make?" Clinton didn't say that the deaths didn't make a difference. Johnson's initial question in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing on January 23, 2013, was about ascertaining whether the attack on the diplomatic facilities in Benghazi started spontaneously in response to an anti-Muslim video on the internet, as the Obama administration initially said, or whether it was a terrorist attack, which the administration later acknowledged. See our latest Benghazi Timeline story for more on that. Johnson asked, "But, Madam Secretary, do you disagree with me that a simple phone call to those evacuees to determine what happened wouldn't have ascertained immediately that there was no protest? That was a piece of information that could have been easily obtained." Clinton said she didn't want to interfere with the FBI or State Department investigations. After some back and forth, she made the "what difference does it make" comment, saying, "With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided that they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again, Senator." Republicans, like Mukasey, have portrayed the remarks as being uncaring toward the lives lost that night. Johnson himself went on to describe in his speech several victims of terrorist attacks, saying it made a difference to them. But Clinton's full remarks indicate she was concerned about the lives lost. Here's the fuller exchange between Johnson and Clinton: Sen. Dan Sullivan of Alaska and Senator Shirley Moore Capito of West Virginia took Clinton's words on coal mining jobs out of context. Sullivan claimed that Clinton promised to target coal miners and oil drillers for extinction. Capito said Clinton promised to devastate communities and families across coal country. Clinton has said she wants to move away from coal, but added, "We don't want to forget those people." She promised to bring renewable energy jobs to coal country to replace lost coal jobs. Sullivan and Capito were referring to Clinton's much criticized comments at a CNN town hall forum in March. Journalist Roland Martin asked Clinton to make her case for why poor whites who live in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama should vote for her and support her economic policies. Her critics focused on a part of her response in which she said, "We're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business." But she said more than that. Sullivan and Capito ignored her promise to create new jobs for communities hurt by the shift away from coal. Clinton later apologized for her remark about putting coal miners out of work, explaining, "What I said was totally out of context from what I meant. As we wrote, Former President Bill Clinton campaigned for his wife in Kentucky and elaborated on her point that renewable energy can create jobs in fossil fuel states, although he exaggerated the amount of electricity that Texas gets from wind energy. Corpito used a one-sided report to claim that the burden of government regulations in this country amounts to $15,000 a household. The figure, oft-cited in conservative circles, is based on a conservative group's admitted back-of-the-envelope calculation of estimated regulatory costs that does not include any potential savings. As we wrote in February 2015, the figure cited by Capito comes from an admitted back-of-the-envelope calculation from a report by the Competitive Enterprise Institute, a staunch opponent of government overregulation. In the report, 10,000 Commandments, an annual snapshot of the federal regulatory state, author Clyde Wayne Cruz Jr. calculates the 2013 cost of federal regulatory compliance at nearly $1.9 trillion. To arrive at the cost per family figure, that $1.9 trillion was simply divided by the number of American households. By that math, Cruz argues, each U.S. household pays $14,974 annually in a hidden regulatory tax. The $1.9 trillion figure is based on the Office of Management and Budget's annual reports to Congress on the benefits and costs of federal regulation. The problem is that the Competitive Enterprise report focused on the costs and ignored the benefits listed in those reports. The OMB typically makes the case that benefits exceed costs. For example, the White House argued in 2012 that regulations that have short-term costs often result in long-term savings. In areas that include food and workplace safety, clean air, fuel economy, energy efficiency, and investor protection, well-designed regulations are preventing tens of thousands of premature deaths and hundreds of thousands of illnesses and accidents and saving billions of dollars, the report states. While one can take issue with the OMB's cost-benefit analyses, to highlight the costs while ignoring benefits tells only half the story. Corpito also exaggerated when she claimed that Obama's recklessness had deprived more than 60,000 coal workers of their jobs since 2011. To be sure, there has been a 41% decline in coal mining jobs since the end of 2011. And the administration's policies favoring cleaner sources of energy and discouraging the burning of coal have played a role. But so have competing energy sources, such as natural gas, and technology, and according to figures from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the total number of coal mining jobs lost during that period is under 36,700, well below the figure Capito cited. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said that Hillary Clinton backed the Keystone XL pipeline before she came out against it. She said in 2010 that the administration was inclined to support the project, but that it was still under review. Clinton never took an official position until 2015, when she opposed it. The claim that Clinton backed the Keystone XL pipeline is based on an answer she gave during a community forum at the Commonwealth Club in 2010. Clinton was asked about the Alberta Clipper, a different pipeline project. But the answer she gave was about the Keystone XL pipeline, which would be built by TransCanada Corporation. and would run 1,179 miles from Hardesty, Alberta, to Steel City, Nebraska, where it would connect with existing pipelines to refineries on the Gulf Coast. At the time, Clinton said that the administration was inclined to approve the Keystone proposal, but she stopped short of fully embracing it, saying that a final decision had not been made because the administration had not completed its analysis. 4 years after those comments, Clinton declined to publicly take a position on the Keystone Pipeline until September 2015, during a campaign event in Iowa, when she opposed it. As Clinton said during the first Democratic presidential debate in October 2015, "I never took a position on Keystone until I took a position on Keystone." Corpedo also said Clinton would double down on an Obama economic agenda that's led to the lowest workforce participation in decades. But Obama's economic agenda hasn't caused the decline in the labor force participation rate, which actually started going down in the late 1990s, a full decade before he took office. Furthermore, the decline is due mainly to millions of baby boomers reaching retirement age and other demographic factors. Corpedo didn't mention that the rate of joblessness among those who want work and are looking for it is now 4.9%, well below the historical norm. Meanwhile, the number of job openings has more than doubled under Obama, to the highest number in the more than 15 years the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been tracking it. Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama said that respect for America has fallen. Crime is rising. Neither statement is true. As we've written before, the U.S. is viewed more favorably now than it was before Obama took office in 2009. According to the Pew Global Attitudes Project's June 2016 update, the percentage of those with favorable views of the U.S. increased in countries such as Japan, Italy, France, Britain, Germany and China. Among the few countries in which the U.S. favorable rating has slipped is Russia, where U.S. favorability plunged to 15% in 2015, down 31 percentage points from 2008. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump made a similar claim about crime rates in a July 11 speech in Virginia Beach. As we wrote then, the violent crime rate is lower now than it has been since 1970. The rate has been on a steady decline since it peaked at 758 in 1991. It was less than half that, 365 in 2014. The FBI describes its data as estimated, and as we mentioned, it comes from voluntary reports from local law enforcement agencies. The rate is the number of offenses per 100,000 people. The murder and non-negligent manslaughter rate nationwide was 4.5 in 2014, the lowest point since at least the early 1960s, when the rate dipped as low as 4.6. Note the numbers do not include lives lost in the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks. Donald Trump Jr. said that his father funded his entire primary run out of his own pocket. Trump provided most of the funding for his primary campaign, but not all of it. On May 26, CNN reported that Trump had reached the required number of delegates to clinch the Republican presidential nomination. And as of May 31, Trump's campaign had raised nearly $65 million, according to funding records from the Federal Election Commission. Trump contributed $395,508 directly to his campaign and loaned it another $45.7 million. But the Trump campaign spent more than $63.2 million through the end of May, according to FEC records. The rest of the money the campaign spent came from individual donations from campaign contributors. And as of the end of May, the campaign had received a total of nearly $17.1 million from donors other than Trump. So, Trump funded roughly 73% of his primary campaign through contributions and loans. Contributing: Eugene Keeley, Brooks Jackson, Robert Farr and D'Angelo Gord. For a full list of sources, see factcheck.org. Note to reader: factcheck.org's managing editor, Lori Robertson, is on the scene in Cleveland. This story was written with the help of the entire staff, based in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. Next week, we will dispatch our staffers in Philadelphia for the Democratic Convention.